Warning. Proceeding without caution will bring you into spoiler territory for the media displayed on screen. Timestamps are gifted in the description and comment section. Viewer discretion is advised.
The Accountant is a film released in 2016 starring Ben Affleck as an autistic accountant with an extreme sense of survival instincts that were instilled upon him by his Army veteran father. The movie also stars Jon Bernthal as his brother and only friend when they were kids, but separated once they became adults, only being reunited at the end of the movie. And it also stars J.K. Simmons and Cynthia Addai-Robinson as the detectives searching for the accountant. Now, I didn't watch The Accountant until 2022 when my dad recommended it to me, which I thought was odd because it stars Ben Affleck as the leading role, and I've spent my entire life hearing him talk about Ben Affleck being one of his least favorite actors. So I gave it a watch and then immediately forgot everything about the movie. Straight up, the only thing I could remember was that Ben Affleck was autistic, Jon Bernthal was his brother, and that there was a shot of a lightsaber because I put as my Letterboxd review, I can't possibly imagine Ben Affleck being a Star Wars fan. Don't ask me why I can't imagine that, because I don't have the answer. I also thought Jon Bernthal's character died at the end of the movie, and I lived with that knowledge until I told my dad that, and he said, no, you just wanted him to die, which sounds very on brand for me back then. So yeah, when I went to the theater one day and saw a poster with the text, "Find the Accountant," my first thought was, that reminds me of that movie with Ben Affleck. Then I looked closer at the poster and noticed that the man on it was Ben Affleck, and that this was a sequel to the movie. Naturally, I was intrigued. It's been 9 years since the original movie, and we're just randomly getting a sequel out of nowhere. And of course, since I've been trying to see more movies in the theaters this year, this went straight onto my list. But of course, I also had to rewatch the first movie due to remembering pretty much nothing from it. So after a rewatch a few days before seeing The Accountant 2, my short review for that movie goes as follows. I liked it. It's entertaining in both the action and its story. I like Jon Bernthal's brief and short appearances, and that final scene between the two brothers is really great. The writing was a little messy, and even after a second watch, I was a bit confused on what the actual story of the film was. It just kind of feels like several ideas for several different stories crammed into one, but when watching the movie, it's fine. It's not like it's a headache trying to follow what's going on or anything. And I like this whole idea of two brothers with their Army vet father being trained all the time, and the dad not wanting people to take advantage of his son and doing what he thinks is the best way to prevent that from happening, even if it might not be the best way. It's just an interesting look at this kind of scenario. Also, Anna Kendrick. That is all. And I think The Accountant actually works as Ben Affleck's best role because of the autism nature of the character. Ben doesn't have to provide emotion, which he already doesn't. I'm kidding. Obviously, his best role is Team America.
Being political is fun!
I don't know where else I'd be able to mention this, but I literally own a copy of Pearl Harbor solely because of the end of an Act song.
Pearl Harbor sucked.
In all seriousness, I make the jokes towards Ben's acting and laugh at some of them, but in reality, I don't hate the guy. Haven't seen much of his movies to have a strong opinion towards him as an actor, and him as a person, I mean, from what I've seen, he seems nice. I remember hearing a story about how he dropped his Batman movie and gave everything to Matt Reeves because he wanted the fans to get a good movie that he didn't think he could provide. I've tried fact-checking this and I can't find anything, so take what I said with a grain of salt, but when I heard this, I gained a shit ton of respect for him, and I've liked him since. And I genuinely do like him a lot in this role. Can I say how well he portrays autism? Not really. The only experience I have with autistic people in my life is my friend who's on the higher functioning side. I think the character actually has the same form of autism as my friend, but it's hard for me to really say if I find any similarities between the two, and even then, it affects everyone differently. Regardless, Ben works really great in this role, in my opinion. So yeah, in general, I like The Accountant. It's fun and entertaining, but nothing too memorable for me. A good time, but not a favorite. With that being said, when I was finished with my rewatch, I became more excited for its sequel, because that final scene between Ben and Jon oozed so much chemistry, and seeing the trailers for this movie, it looked like it would have a lot more of the two hanging out with each other on screen, and I was all for that. And that's exactly what we got. The Accountant 2 starts with the death of J.K. Simmons' character Ray King, something that was spoiled in the trailers, and I hate that so much. I get that it's what starts the story, but I had tried avoiding the trailers and any info about this movie before watching, and got stuck having to watch one of them in the theaters before a movie, and hearing Ray King is dead just straight up sucked. The only credit I can give to this is that the trailer seemed to change how he died, Because I remember seeing him die in a toilet stall in the trailer, and then in the movie he actually survives that entire encounter just to then die in the middle of the street from a sniper. I guess it was a nice sense of misdirection, but I just wish I hadn't known at all that he was gonna die. So anyways, Ray King's death causes Mary Beth, played by Cynthia Addai-Robinson, to reach out to the accountant for help investigating who killed him. Which leads us into one of the many things I liked about this movie, and that's the cop-criminal working dynamic. Mary Beth trying to do everything legally and by the book, while Christian gives zero shits and beating the fuck out of people and breaking bones to get information. You know, when I saw the scene of him taking down the pizza owner and breaking his arm in order to get more information out of him, all I could think of was this is a better Batman scene than anything we got in Batman vs. Superman. I mean, he still outright kills people in this movie with guns, but that's fine because this is an entirely different character and not fucking Batman. I'm starting to think I would have liked Ben Affleck's Batman had he actually been written to fucking be Batman and not the Punisher. Speaking of the Punisher, due to the investigation, Christian reaches out to Braxton for the first time in the 8-year gap between these two movies and asks for his help, starting the buddy comedy between these two that is just so great. Pretty much every scene with these two are amazing and just highlights of the movie. Their first phone call when Christian can't read Braxton's sarcasm, when they first meet up and Christian thanks him for showing up, to which Braxton can immediately tell that he was told to say that. Their little brotherly bickering interactions throughout them being together. My favorite scene is the one on top of the RV when Braxton asks Christian if he doesn't miss him or doesn't bother to talk to him because of him himself or his autism, but struggles to actually mention the autism. After a few attempts at the sentence, he eventually just goes, "Your condition," to which Christian just sits there in silence for a bit before going, "I'm just who I am." It was oddly kind of relatable, that sense of just trying to ask about something, but feeling like a part of the question involves something taboo that you struggle to even bring it up. I'm not gonna lie, I found myself in that position a few times with my friend. That thank you scene as well comes back when the two are gearing up for the third act and Christian sincerely tells Braxton thank you for being there and helping Christian go through with saving the children, and Braxton knows that this time it's genuine. And then there's the whole shootout at the end where I felt myself age into a 50-year-old conservative because there was something about watching two dudes with guns, grenades, and smoke bombs having a shootout together in a desert that made me just smile the whole time. And occasionally let out a laugh or a sound of joy. Is this how middle-aged conservative dads feel when watching Iraq war movies? If so, then I get why y'all love them so much. I loved how the two made every decision in that scene without saying a single word. They just knew where to go, when to swap places, what the other person's gonna do without even speaking. Just that brotherly connection built off of being trained by an army vet for a father. It was oddly wholesome. It's hard to really talk about the story of this movie because it follows a similar pacing as the first one, with a basic driving force to lead us from beginning to end, but with a bunch of other random things being thrown into the mix that it makes it difficult to really explain what the movie is about. While the first one had to do with an autistic accountant, hints of his backstory, hints of his daily life, him falling in love but denying it because his father told him that everyone would find him weird, his brother appearing a few times, something to do with an accounting job that then leads the two brothers together in the third act by happen chance, all while a detective is trying to figure out who the accountant is. This one follows the plot points of Ray King hiring someone to find a family, but that doesn't go through and Ray King dies, so then Christian gets brought along to find out the killers of Ray King, but also find out who this girl is that Ray tried to hire, but then also try to find out the family. But then when Braxton gets brought along, it becomes a buddy comedy between the brothers as they try to find this girl, while also going out drinking at a country club and then wrapping up the story with trying to find the child of the girl who was hired, because she was actually this mom in the photo who had a really bad accident that wiped her memory but made her great in combat. But anyways, Christian now wants to find the child and bring him to the special needs school from the first movie that has now been reformed into some secret special intelligence program ran by highly talented special needs kids because Christian believes that the child is like him, which he is. You see what I mean by it being difficult to explain the story? The plot points are a fucking mess when I try to write it out, but then when actually watching the movie, it doesn't feel that way. It jumps from point to point without feeling too messy, like with the first movie, and ends up being a very entertaining watch overall. Oh, and the movie also begins with a speed dating scene that's funny, but kinda goes nowhere, continuing another small plot point from the first movie of Christian not being able to find love. I do wonder if this will get wrapped up in the third movie that I guess is being made, but we'll see. But yeah, I felt like this movie was pretty similar to its predecessor in terms of its writing and pacing, while being more enjoyable due to the cop-criminal dynamic throughout the first act, buddy comedy in its second, and desert shootout in its third. Everyone gives great performances. I love the special needs school getting more attention in the sequel and expanding to have this group of extremely talented kids. That felt like such a satisfying movement forward from where it left off in the first film. Ben Affleck and Jon Bernthal have such great chemistry, and every scene they're in together is an absolute highlight to the movie. And I even love that Braxton tries to get a Corey, wraps back around to the end where he gets a cat instead, with Christian having called it that he's a cat person. Not gonna lie, I teared up when he found the cat. I don't know why. So did The Accountant deserve a sequel almost 10 years later? I think so. I had a great time watching it and would love to watch it again. And while I did generally enjoy the first movie, I ended up really liking this one a lot more, and in general just had more fun with my time spent with it. The first film is a great standalone story, but I loved how the sequel fleshed out the world a little bit more and provided us the great duo that is John and Ben. And if the third one is going to be more of this, I cannot wait. And in general, I think the story in this one is just written and paced a little bit better than the first. So yeah, The Accountant was definitely deserving of a sequel, especially when the sequel ended up being better than the original. Oh, and how could I forget to mention that there's an entire scene of Jon Bernthal walking around a hotel room only wearing very tight boxers and showing off his massive bulge. 10 out of 10, peak cinema.
And of course, everyone has their own opinion, but my opinion is the best opinion. I'm sure you figured that out already.
Subscribe and please